welcome once again to our new show, Bonus Time with Drennan, here on Big Play Network, brought to you by Tipico. I'm Bruce Drennan. Great to have you with us. Ryan Smith is my producer. We have so much to cover in this week's show. Last week was our first show here on Big Play and really got a lot of response to it. I was quite impressed. I loved it. I enjoyed it. The time flew. And likewise, looking forward to that happening again today. Ryan, how are you today, partner?
I'm doing wonderful. People missed you, Bruce.
You know, it was very flattering to see all the comments. It really was. And I can't tell you the reaction that I got on the streets, on the golf courses, just doing one show. So I'm really excited about the potential and possibilities. As I said, we have so much to cover. NFL, Browns, of course, NFL, college football. We're going to do a little bit of baseball as well today. So let's get right to it. This is the best defense that the Cleveland Browns franchise has ever had. I don't make that statement lightly. Let me repeat. This is the best defense that the Cleveland Browns organization has ever had. We have never seen a ferocious, tenacious, pass rush, relentless like this. It's so refreshing. Think of how we have been tortured watching our team. Better yet, watching the opposing team's quarterback sit in the pocket with time to take a sip of coffee and a puff off of his cigarette if he dares threaten his life with that terrible nicotine. Torturous over the years. Torturous. No longer. This was so much fun to watch against Tennessee. And I have to admit, I was wrong. I've always prided myself in admitting when I'm wrong. I'm starting today's show by telling you I was wrong. Last week I told you that I thought the Browns would win the game against Tennessee and do so in a manner as follows. Curtail Henry, thus putting the burden on Tannehill because he's average at best. Here's where I was wrong. I said I thought the Browns defense could curtail Henry. They stopped him like a giant brick wall. Now, Ryan, I didn't think that was possible. But my goodness gracious.
-7 yards in the first half. Derrick Henry, the lowest mark of his career. Absurd.
It was so much fun to watch. I cannot say enough about Schwartz. Bringing him in was a stroke of genius by the organization. How about him laughing on the sidelines? What have we ever seen a coach do that, a coordinator do that? And justifiably, it was just great to see. Let me switch sides of the ball and go to the offense with Watson. Obviously, this, I thought, was a coming out game for him. He played, I thought, very efficiently. As I've said to you, I think he can do nothing but get better and better and better and more comfortable as we progress. I think that we saw the first big step of that this past week, and I was just elated to see the way he conducted himself and our offense. I got a big kick out of the way he scampered for yardage, the design plays for yardage, the passing was more accurate. Peoples-Jones and Cooper, the main targets. I'd like to see the other receivers incorporated a little more, and I think that is going to come with time. And also also the tight ends. Throw to those tight ends. You've got a couple of weapons there in Njoku and Bryant that can create a lot of problems for defensive coordinators, because if you establish them underneath, it makes your deep threats even more threatening, and the defense has got to concentrate on the underneath rather than concentrating on taking away the bomb, which I think is a matter of timing for Watson. Some of his long passes, I think that's familiarity with his receivers, timing. The more practice he gets, I think the more comfortable he'll be in that throwing down the field accurately. Any comment, Ryan?
Was it safe to say that this was Deshaun's best game in orange and brown, Bruce?
Yes, definitely. And even in the all-white.
Yeah, there you go.
Which I like, by the way. I love those white helmets. I really do.
They're pretty.
I really do. But yeah, I think that's very fair. And you know what? I had said, too, with the loss of Chubb, if we can get a combination of Hunt and Ford together to combine to make up the differential of Chubb, you can't replace Chubb. But we didn't even get that yardage-wise. I mean, they served their purpose, but give Tennessee's got a real good defense. And give them credit. But I think that will improve too. I really do. I think that the combination of those guys, and they tried to incorporate more. Absolutely, I thought that was well thought out by Stefanski and his offensive coaches. The more, the better, so to speak. So yeah, I would agree, Ryan, and I think it can do nothing but get better. I really do. Now, I did some research, and I think you'll find some of these tidbits quite interesting. The Browns' defense is forcing the most 3-and-outs of any defense in the National Football League. Only 3 games, I realize, but still. Going into Sunday's game against Tennessee, the Browns were at a 62% clip on 3-and-outs. Now, after, and I didn't update the percentage, that's even better now after what they did against Tennessee. Kevin Stefanski is now 11-19 against the spread as as far as 20-10 and as well as 20-10 outright. He is now 13-54-1 in conference games. And the Browns have allowed, here's another good tidbit for our defense. The Browns have allowed the fewest yards, specifically 491. That's a 3.2 per play average. And the Browns have allowed the fewest first downs, 21, by any team through 3 games since the 1999 Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Numbers don't lie, Bruce.
Especially talking, pinch me or something, Are we awake? Is this a dream? The Browns defense playing like this? The Browns have allowed just 1 offensive touchdown. That's the lowest rate, 2.6%, through 3 games since 2000. And haven't allowed a single play inside the opponent's 10-yard line. How about that?
That's crazy. No goal-to-go situations through 3 weeks.
Now, our next opponent, obviously, is Baltimore. And it should be pointed out for the upcoming game Sunday, in their loss to Indianapolis, and by the way, if you're a Baltimore fan, or if you're John Harbaugh, how peeved off are you with the way that game ended in overtime against Indianapolis?
Not many times Justin Tucker's going to miss that kick.
Now, Baltimore was missing 7 starters, in fairness. against Indy, 2 offensive linemen, and 2 secondary starters. And that's indeed still going to be the case for this coming game against our Cleveland Browns. So they are ripe for the taking. And we better get them now, because outside of Dobbins, these guys are going to be returning this year. So by the time they play the divisional opponents like us, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati, it'll be toward the end of the season schedule, and they'll be presumably healthy by that time. So let's get them now. I would also take it one step further. I think we should win this game Sunday against Baltimore. I think we will win this game Sunday against Baltimore. The line, I believe, is 2.5. Cleveland is the favorite, as we should be. And I think we will prevail. However, I hate to look at the other side of the coin, but we must. If we don't win this game, this is a setback, a big setback, because again, Baltimore's ripe for the taking. We're at home. Protect that home turf. It's a divisional game, and we can take command of the division. So I'm very excited about it, and I really am looking forward to this upcoming game against the Baltimore Ravens. And I watched the end of that Indianapolis game with them and the Colts, and I couldn't have been happier. I thought they would win that game. I really did. I couldn't have been more elated when I saw the way it did conclude. But, yeah, so that's what I got to say about the Browns to start things off on the show today. I really am looking forward to this next game against Baltimore, but I think we have to win this game. I really do, and we should win this game. And we could legitimately be very, very, very disappointed if we do not win this game, considering how crippled up they are.
Yeah, a 3-1 lead heading into the bye. Or, I'm sorry, a 3-1 record heading into the bye atop the division. That would be oh so sweet.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, now let me also go through, we have the standings here, but I want to go through the standings after I get through some other tidbits in the National Football League in this third week of the season. Some of the prep that I did for today's show. In this season's early going, now before the Monday night game involving Tampa Bay, NFC teams were 6-0 in AFC matchups, and 7 of the 9 2-0 teams, 2-0 teams, Tampa Bay was one of them, are in the NFC. Now, Baltimore lost in overtime to Indianapolis, but going into the games Monday night. Now, since 2009, teams that are 2-0 getting at least 3 points as a dog were 16-7 against the spread. However, Tampa Bay, as you know, got beat. Washington got beat. Atlanta, they all lost. So there are 3 of those teams. And by the way, I do want to talk about Mayfield. The few Browns fans, I prefer to say few Browns fans. Ryan, you can disagree about the pulse of the Browns fans, but I think the few Browns fans that still think that we should have kept Mayfield.
I think that ship may have sailed after that game.
And also the performance by Watson. But at any rate, that was quite a performance by Philadelphia. They really did show why they were the NFC champs a year ago. And it is very clear to me, even as ridiculously early as it is, that Philadelphia and San Francisco are still the teams to beat in the NFC. But we'll get to that in a minute. Let me get through some of these other tidbits for you.
Let's do it.
Denver's Russell Wilson is 25-2 against the spread as a dog of at least 3 points in his career. Needless to say, he lost. Boy, did he lose. My goodness. Miami, let me start with Tua. Tua is now 22-14-1 against the spread in his career, 12-5 against the spread at home. Miami has covered 11 of 13 games versus Denver, and Russell Wilson is now 26-2 as a dog of at least 3 points, like I pointed out. But how about this? In that massacre of Miami over Denver, Miami gained 700 yards with their 70-20 victory. 700 yards in an NFL game. That's the most points scored in 57 years. It was the fourth most 70-plus point game in NFL history. And the other three were the 1940 Chicago Bears, the 73 championship game with the 1966 Washington Redskins, and the 1950 Rams scored 70. First team to have 5 passing touchdowns, Miami, 5 passing touchdowns, and 5 rushing touchdowns in a game. Just incredible. Well, getting back to Baltimore, our next opponent, Indianapolis beating Baltimore in overtime. They are now 10-1 against the spread in their last 11 games against Baltimore. Did you know that before going into that game?
I did not, but I did bet Colts +8, so it hit.
There you go. And how about the hapless Bears? Oh, my God. What are they saying in Chicago about Justin Fields?
It's not good, Bruce.
The fandom, I'm originally from Chicago, Ryan.
Oh, okay.
So many connections professionally as well as, growing up there with friendships that I still maintain, relatives, etc. They were high on Justin Fields. They're not high anymore on him. Wow. What a turn of events there, huh?
That is one messy organization right now, and I don't want any part of it.
Yeah. And you know what's funny, though? They've got a game coming up. What are they? Oh, they're 0-3. And are they playing Denver this week?
Yeah, I believe it's Monday Night Football.
Yeah. 0-3 Chicago against 0-3 Denver. How about that one? I actually think it's going to be an interesting game because they both are so pathetic. Yeah. Here it is. And Denver in Chicago in Soldier Field is a 3.5 point favorite. Boy, is that a slap in the face to the Bears?
After giving up 70 points, you go into the next game and you're a favorite.
Unbelievable. Truly. We are a 2-point favorite against Baltimore. Miami, and here's another one. Buffalo is at home against Miami this coming weekend, and that is going to be quite a matchup.
Oh, yeah.
Baltimore's a 2.5 to 3 point favorite as of this show. What do you think of that line? With Miami coming off the 70 performance. I think Miami's proving they're for real. So with this game, and Buffalo did what they had to do by winning. So you've got Buffalo and Miami as the two front runners in the AFC East. And what did I tell you last week in our first show here on Big Play? I wouldn't be flabbergasted if the 4 teams in our division, the AFC North, go 3-3 against one another. Well, Pittsburgh is 1-0, Baltimore's 1-0, we're 1-1, and Cincinnati's 0-2. So long way to go. But Indianapolis got a much-needed win. How about Jacksonville losing at home like they did? I
was very, very disappointed, and I'm not sure whether to attribute that to Jacksonville disappointing or C.J. Stroud just having a coming-out party, and maybe it's a bit of both.
Had a nice game. You're right, Ryan. He had a nice game. Kansas City did what they had to do of course, against the hapless Bears. So you've got Frisco in the NFC West dominating. Seattle is an interesting team because of Geno Smith, don't you think?
They just refuse to go away.
I'm curious ultimately how good he can be. He's always been a backup at best, but we'll see. We'll see. Atlanta, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, all 2-1. Green Bay. So much for the love for love.
We know how those Joe Woods meltdowns go on defense, so hope they're having fun there in New Orleans.
Yes, sir. Good point. And Detroit 2-1. Then you've got Philly, of course, Dallas and Washington. A lot of pressure on Dallas. Lots of pressure on Dallas. Do we have tweets this week?
We have a couple, yeah.
Lay them on me. Let's see where we go from here, and then we'll switch to college ball. What do you got for us?
All right, let's take a look. How about we'll start with the Cavs tweet? Zach Shaffrin says, anyone think the Cavs trade Donovan Mitchell tonight? And then a reply says, I would trade Mitchell and Jared Allen to the Knicks and ask for Jalen Brunson and then go after Kuzma if he becomes a free agent.
I haven't even addressed the Cavs yet on the show outside of the fact that I feel badly for Kobe Altman. He should have known better the wrongdoing of the OVI, and I feel badly that occurred. But who amongst us hasn't made mistakes? Certainly I have. So I feel badly in that regard. But I think it's going to be a fun season for the Cavs upcoming. I'm looking forward to it. We'll give it extensive coverage here on the show. Go on.
All righty, on to Coach Stefanski. Cam from Canada, so he's giving credit to Jim Schwartz and the defense saying they're 3-0, but no credit to Kevin Stefanski saying he should be 0-3.
I think that's unfair because correct me if I'm wrong, did you really have an issue with his play calling in the game?
No, not at all.
I didn't. I was rather pleased. So let's be fair about it. And again, it's only the third game of the season. And remember this too. Watson's still getting acclimated. Forget those last few games last year. That was a chaotic situation where he was serving his suspension, and then he comes back, and he's plugged in, and everybody expects him to be, the first-string Pro Bowler. Let's be fair with Stefanski.
All righty, how about some guards? It is Tito's last home game, and Rick Bork says, you do realize Francona burns out pitchers, and that is why he was fired from Boston. Worst skipper Cleveland has ever had.
Why me? What did I do to deserve idiots like that with comments? I mean, come on. He's a Hall of Fame, a future Hall of Fame manager. And since he came to Cleveland, this fact cannot be denied. Every year, except for maybe this year, he's either qualified the Indians, now Guardians, for the playoffs, or in contention to the last week or two of the season. I mean, come on, be fair to the guy. And he's such a humble man. He's going out with such dignity and class. And I wish him well. Obviously, health has got to be a concern for this Hall of Fame, this future Hall of Fame manager that served so beautifully here in Cleveland for so many years. But I reiterate what I have said before, and I'll say it again. Give the job to Mike Sarbaugh. Go on.
All righty, another football one here. From Cam from the 216, whose name on Twitter is Fire Kevin Stefanski, he tweets, if Jerome Ford continues to play like this for the entire season, should the Browns consider trading Nick Chubb?
Oh, goodness gracious me. I don't know how to respond to an ignoramus comment like that. We did get some very good news about Chubb. This knee injury is not as devastatingly bad as we thought originally. In other words, career-threatening. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, I believe I heard now the prognosis from the physicians is that you're now looking at 6 to 8 months.
Correct.
So that is extremely positive news because we all speculated after seeing that gruesome hit that this could be career-threatening. Thank God that we got this new prognosis from the doctors.
All righty, Bruce, that's it for tweets. Great stuff.
As always, we look forward to it. All right, now I want to take a break. When we come back, we're going to dive into all that college ball. How about Lou Holtz's statements about Ohio State? How about the game? How about the game between Florida State and Clemson? That's next on Bonus Time with Drennan on the Big Play Network. Welcome back. Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Network, and really glad to have you with us. Brought to you by Tipico. Hey, do you need bet credits for football season? Well, the Big Play Network is presented by Tipico Sportsbook. Tipico Sportsbook app has your traditional bets like the money line, spread, and point totals, but also lock in player props and check out the Big Play boosts every single week to back your favorite Cleveland teams and athletes with the best odds in the state of Ohio. Get in the action and load up for football season using the promo code BIGPLAY150 to get $150 of bet credits on us plus a $30 dog pound bet. Bet with the Big Play crew all season long with Tipico Sportsbook. Well, great to have you with us here on Bonus Time with Drennan. Ryan Smith is my producer, and let us resume. We covered the NFL. Now let's dive into the college football. What a tremendous college football game we witnessed Saturday night between our Ohio State Buckeyes and the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. Just an incredibly entertaining, hard-nosed, physical game between two of the best teams in the country. The atmosphere was absolutely electric. Notre Dame pulled out their all-green uniforms, which they rarely do, and what emotion was surrounding this nationally televised matchup, and what an outcome. Let me also say that I so much controversy about the Ohio State quarterback situation, and I'll tell you what, McCord, in my opinion, really showed his stuff coming down the stretch at the end of the game. I mean, those throws that he made won the game for us. And you can have your doubts about him and you can second guess him. That's easy. But again, it's so early in the season. I think he's going to be fine, Ryan. I really do. But he really showed me grit, guts, and heart with his drive to win the game at the end.
Notre Dame's defense, no joke. National stage at their place. Come in. Last drive, you show up when it matters, a walk-off win. It really doesn't get better than that.
And the physicality of this game was so evident throughout, and it just kills me that Lou Holtz questioned prior to the game. And first of all, Holtz, of course, is the former coach at Notre Dame. He won the national championship. He beat West Virginia, if my memory serves me correctly, for that championship that year. But and prior to that, he was a coach of Arkansas, and he upset a number one ranked Oklahoma team way back when in the Orange Bowl when they were a big underdog. And he actually suspended several of his starting players for wrongdoing and then went out and trounced Oklahoma. So the two big claims to fame, one at Notre Dame and prior to that at Arkansas. But for him to say that Ohio State is not a physical team, and especially against elite competition, really got the ire of Ryan Day, and I don't blame him. And first of all, Lou Holtz, I mean, come on. He's almost as bad as Biden and McConnell. Am I wrong? Why do you think the network got rid of him? Now, I'm 73 years old, and I promise you, when that day comes, I will know, and I will try to graciously bow out. I retired from my TV show on the network a couple of years ago, but just like that line in Godfather 3, just when you thought you were out, they suck you back in. And I'm elated to be here with the Big Play Network. I do my radio work on ESPN, but I'll know I'll know. Holtz, keep your mouth shut. Who was the lineman? Wasn't the lineman from the Washington Redskins? May, I believe his name was. He was a tackle under Joe Gibbs, and he used to be on the network with Holtz and go at it with him. And I said to myself, I said, what is Holtz? May was certainly intellectually out-dueling him, where it was almost embarrassing that Holtz was trying to make these ridiculous points toward the end of that stint of his career in broadcasting as an anchor, a studio anchor. And then here he makes this ignoramus comment about Ohio State. How stupid can you be? But I'm glad Ohio State. And boy, did you see Ryan Day's interview after the game?
He was fired up, Bruce.
Holy, we have never seen that side of Ryan Day. And you know what? I loved it. To get his ire up like that, I loved it. And Holtz deserved it. And now Holtz is trying to cover his tracks, by the way. But this game elevated Ohio State's prowess big time because this was at South Bend. And Notre Dame's for real this year. This Hartman is a good quarterback. Transfer from where? Wake Forest, I think.
Yep, he's actually the all-time touchdown leader in the AAC. Or not the AAC, the ACC.
Well, with the 17-14 victory at South Bend, Ohio State has launched themselves into the 4th position in the AP rankings. Georgia maintains their number 1 status as the defending national champions the last couple of years, even though they didn't cover against UAB 49-21. Michigan, same thing against a decent Rutgers. Shiano's doing a nice job at Rutgers. Give him a little more time to recruit. 31-7, the final score, Michigan prevailing. Texas with Ewers, what a story that is, transferring from Ohio State. Now he goes back home to where he's from, in the state of Texas. And he goes and he joins the Longhorns in Austin, and they are for real. They're number 3 in the country, and they really trounced Baylor 38-6. Baylor's had their way with the Horns the last few years, too. Ohio State number 4, as I mentioned. How about the Florida State Clemson game? I was glued to the set all day long Saturday. First Florida State and Clemson, then Colorado in the afternoon. I'll get to that in a minute. And then at night, the Ohio State-Notre Dame game, and I flipped over to see Penn State too. But the Florida State-Clemson game, Dabo Swinney has got to be going crazy in practice this week. They should have won the game. They not only because they blew the 10-0 lead like they had early in the game, but they still should have won the game later on, and they couldn't do it. Florida State's for real. They're back. I don't know if they're back to the prowess of the Bobby Bowden days, but they're back right now. And that proved a lot because Clemson, even though they may not be as strong as when Deshaun Watson was there and Trevor Lawrence was there and all these other great players, they're still a very good, high-level, elite college football program. And for Florida State to go in there and beat them, as they did in overtime, was a very entertaining and quite a statement made by the Seminoles. Penn State, I mentioned. There's another kid I want to talk about, that kid Alar, who's from Medina High School and went to Penn State. Penn State wanted him desperately. Friends of mine in Medina told me they recruited him heavy. They showed interest in him as soon as they were legally able to do so. He fell in love with their coaching staff and the campus, and he said, I'm going to Penn State, and now he's got them number 6 in the country with their win over Iowa, and what a statement. You don't beat up on Kurt Ferentz's team often. I'm a fan of Kurt Ferentz. I think he's a great coach because he doesn't have the recruiting power at Iowa like Penn State, Ohio State, Alabama, any of the Southeastern Conference teams. Yet, every single year, he gets 9-10 victories, goes to a bowl game, and his bowl record is good. He gets trounced 31-0 by this Penn State team. And I'll tell you what, Penn State's for real. Then you've got Washington, and isn't it amazing to me? This kills me. The Pac-12 is disintegrating in front of our very eyes. You've got a half a dozen teams in the Pac-12 this year that are really, really, really good. Starting with the Washington Huskies. You got to go back to the days of Coach James when they won a national championship and contended for national championships. But Washington beating a decent California team, 59-32. So they're now 4-0.
Michael Penix really making a case for Heisman.
Yes. Yes. Southern Cal. There's another one. Oregon against Colorado. All right. I think Deion Sanders going to Colorado was great for college football. He's refreshing. He's funny. He's charismatic. He's cocky. He's conceited. He's a great football man. He had a great college career, a tremendous professional career. Now he goes to Jackson State. Now he goes over to Colorado. Turns over 80% of the roster because of the portal now being legal and all. And he gets all this publicity after knocking off TCU. Close call against his arch rival Colorado State, but he prevailed in OT. But was this an awakening against Oregon, who is definitely for real with Nix and company? They are for real. So there's another Pac-12 team that is in contention. And I haven't even mentioned Utah. They're number 10. And they beat a decent UCLA team. Washington State is good. Oregon State is good. It blows my mind that this conference is disintegrating in front of our very eyes. And you've got all these Pac-12 teams that are really good this year. I also want to comment about Colorado. They've got Southern Cal this week. And I think that line, yes, it was originally 21.5, and now it's up to 24. With and this is at Colorado. This is at Boulder. So you've got that. But I got a real kick. And by the way, did you notice, Ryan, that Sanders didn't talk to anybody after the game?
I did.
Not his usual media.
Was looking forward to hearing from him.
Not Saturday. But what a team Oregon is. You know, am I out of line by saying we've got double-digit teams, at least 10, that could win the national championship this year?
I don't think so. I think it's very spread field.
You know, you got Georgia, Michigan, Texas, Ohio State, Florida State, Penn State, Washington, Southern Cal, Oregon, Utah. I haven't even mentioned Notre Dame, Alabama, LSU, Oklahoma. Amazing. When was the last time we had that kind of uncertainty in the college ranks for the national championship?
It's refreshing.
It is. And now we go to the expanded field next year. I wonder, though, if they're going to have to change their criteria of how they're going to pick these teams with the Pac-12 disintegrating like it is. They originally were going to do the Power 5. They can't do that now with only, the couple of teams left out there. They've got to be more open-minded about at-large teams, because you can make a case for 3 or 4 teams from the Southeastern Conference. I say probably 2 or 3 teams, maybe 4 from the Big Ten, couple from the ACC. Notre Dame as an independent's got to be thrown in there. And I haven't even mentioned any of these Pac-12 teams who are all really good this year. So they've got to address that. They've got to address that for the future. But let me look through some of these games forthcoming in the next weekend. You've got Utah at Oregon State, and Oregon State opened as a 3-point favorite against the defending Pac-12 champs. Now that line is down to 1.5. For what it's worth, the money going the other way. Southern Cal, I mentioned, was a 21.5-point favorite against Colorado at Boulder. Now it's up to 24. Michigan was an 18-point favorite against Nebraska, and now that's up to 18.5. I became friends with Bo Pelini, the former coach at Nebraska and Youngstown State. I played in a charity golf outing with him earlier this year. It was actually Annika Sorenstam put it together along with Ed Moransky, the owner of the Lake Club in Poland, Ohio, right outside of Youngstown. And it was to raise money for East Palestine, the derailment with the train and all. And see, Annika married Mike McGee. Mike is the son of Jerry McGee, the deceased former touring pro on the PGA Tour. And the McGees are from East Palestine. So Annika called up Ed and wanted to put this fundraiser together. So Ed put his staff. Ed's a former Super Bowl champion lineman with the Raiders. He's from Youngstown, went to Cardinal Mooney, All-State, went to Michigan, played for Schembechler, All-American, won a Rose Bowl with Schembechler. And Ed's a great guy, and he became an entrepreneur when he went back to Youngstown, and he owns the Lake Club. So Ed put his team together in 57 days, put an outing together. We raised $400,000 for the people of East Palestine, and I was part of it. I was the only broadcaster, along with Ed Hannon from Youngstown area. We were the only one broadcasters, but Bernie Kosar, Jim Tressel, Bob Stoops, Ben Curtis, Jason Kokrak, Austin Carr, who else? I don't want to forget anybody, and obviously Bo Pelini, and that's the point. That's what brought it to my mind. Bo Pelini and I played together in that fundraiser. And I got to know Bo, and I had a ball with Bo. Tough, hard-nosed football coach. And he was confiding in me about with his days at Nebraska. And believe me, there's no love lost between him and the people in Lincoln. So I asked him, I said, can they ever regain the status that they once enjoyed under Bob Devaney and under Osborne? And we talked about that in length, and he thinks it's very, very difficult. He doesn't know or envision in our lifetime if we'll see that again, because in those days they were able to recruit from the state of California extensively, as well as other portions of the country, but very extensively in the enriched state of California. And that's no longer the case. They're not getting kids from California to go to Lincoln, Nebraska to play. That tradition and those days of glory and national championship contention are long gone. So, but I enjoyed meeting Bo, and maybe we can hook him up and line him up for a show here to interview. He'd be more than willing to do it. All right, so where did I lead off? Oh, yeah, Nebraska. Kansas is at Texas. Kansas is undefeated. And they visit Austin with the Horns, a 17-point favorite, and that line has stayed steady, by the way. Georgia is at Auburn. The number one ranked Dogs are, they were originally a 14.5-point favorite that has risen to 16 points. And LSU is at Ole Miss. LSU was a 3-point favorite. It's only gone down a tad to 2.5. And Notre Dame is at Duke. And they were a 5.5-point favorite. That's down to 4 because of the loss to Ohio State. But I don't know if is it an overreaction? Is it an overreaction to think that Notre Dame's going to have this gigantic letdown? I don't know. Only time will tell if they can handle Duke. But I'd be careful before I take the points with Duke, considering what we saw. If indeed Freeman is a motivator, then they're going to be raring to go to make up for that devastating loss at South Bend against the Buckeyes. Any comments on the college ranks, Ryan?
Well, I will say I want to comment on that Notre Dame game, and I want to get your thoughts as well, Bruce, about only having 10 men on the field on that final walk-off play. That just can't happen.
Freeman made some sort of an excuse that I didn't buy. Ryan is absolutely correct. How can you possibly make that mistake in big-time ball? I don't know if it would have made a difference with the play call by Ohio State. I really don't. But there's no excuse for it. It's ironic, too. Freeman went to Ohio State, and Gene Smith, the athletic director of Ohio State, who just announced his retirement, went to Notre Dame. But, yeah, you're absolutely – you can't do it. You just can't. It can't happen. It can't happen. I guarantee it won't happen again. He let his coaches know about that one. Anything else, Ryan?
No, I'm excited to see more games this week. Obviously, Colorado's a big story. I want to see how they play against, obviously, a championship contender in USC. Ohio State's got the bye, so not much action there, but still some really good games on the slate.
Yeah, looking forward to it, very much so. And some of the teams I haven't mentioned in college ball that are noteworthy. Miami of Florida's got a good team this year.
Yeah.
Ole Miss, I mentioned. Tennessee is okay. Florida, Missouri, Kansas, I mentioned, is and by the way, when they beat BYU, those were 2 undefeated teams. And then Fresno State. All right, I want to conclude the show this week with a tribute to one of the best, Brooks Robinson. Before I do, this is the last week of the baseball season. I want you to know that, and I remember, I don't recall if I mentioned this last week on the show or not. I think it's got to be either Atlanta or the LA Dodgers in the National League. Atlanta, to me, top to bottom, has been the best team in baseball all season long, especially considering they haven't had Fried or Kyle Wright for most of the season. And Fried is hurt again now, but they're hoping he'll be ready for the playoffs. But Atlanta, their lineup is just, I think they could go, I've always considered the late 50s and early 60s Yankees lineup with Mantle, Maris Berra, and that crew, Elson Howard. That lineup, obviously the Big Red Machine, the Pittsburgh Pirates of Roberto Clemente, Willie Stargell, Al Oliver, that crew, during the same era of the Big Red Machine. The Bashers of the Oakland A's with Canseco, McGuire, Ricky Henderson, Carney Lansford. Our Cleveland Indians with Albert Bell, Manny Ramirez, Tomey, the whole crew. I consider those, and Texas, when they got to the World Series a couple of times, didn't win, but that lineup was incredibly formidable too. I'm talking about the strongest lineups in history, in my lifetime. Yeah, you could go back to the 20s Yankees, but that was before the color barrier was broken. I think this Atlanta lineup could be right in that category as well. They're that good. They're that strong. They're that powerful. So indeed, with that being said, the American League is wide open, and we will see how it turns out. But I am excited about the upcoming playoffs, that's for sure. So let me conclude by paying tribute to one of the greats. For those of you that are too young to remember Brooks Robinson, without question, the greatest defensive third baseman and one of the greatest defensive players ever to put on a uniform. Whole career with the Baltimore Orioles, just passed away at 86 years old. 23-year career. 16 gold gloves. 1964 MVP. He wasn't known for offense, yet that year he hit .317 with 28 homers and 118 RBIs. Mickey Mantle finished a distant second to him for the MVP voting that year. 2 World Series rings, 1966 and 1970. In 66, the Dodgers had Koufax, Drysdale. They're fresh off a victory in 63 against the Yankees and 65 against Minnesota for the crown. Baltimore swept them. In 70, the Big Red Machine, Rose and Bench. That was before the Morgan trade, by the way. And Baltimore made fast work of them and beat them in 5 games. And Brooks Robinson was the MVP of that World Series. He had .429. He was known for his defense, but he was a great clutch hitter. .429, 9 for 21, 22. He had 2 doubles, 2 home runs, 5 runs scored, 6 RBIs. And he also was instrumental in the Orioles winning the pennant in 69. They lost in 5 games to the New York Mets, and again in 71, and they lost in 7 games to the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I consider that one of the greatest, most entertaining World Series I've ever seen. 18 times he was an all-star. Earl Weaver was his manager. He played with Frank Robinson, Boog Powell, Paul Blair, Don Buford, Mark Belanger. 2 catchers, Andy Etchebarren and Elrod Hendricks. And Davey Johnson. who later on became a well-known manager. Known for his defense, he compiled a .303 lifetime postseason batting average in 39 postseason games. Clutch and class. And he became a broadcaster for the Orioles broadcast following his playing career. We mourn the passing and celebrate the life and career of Brooks Robinson. That's all the time for this week's version of Bonus Time with Drennan on the Big Play Network. You have a great week. I look forward to having you join us next week here on the show. On behalf of my producer, Ryan Smith, I'm Bruce Drennan. Until then, as always, and most importantly, you remember, I love you, Ohio. And I love you, Cleveland.